right, guys, what I want to answer right now is a question we get all the time, and that is, Matt, what is the difference between a stain or a paint? Why should I choose a stain over a paint, or should I do an all natural oil finish? So I'm going to show you guys some things. There's pros and cons to everything. Now this beautiful Carolina Coop right here, this is actually what is called a solid acrylic stain. Now my personal favorite is to use a solid acrylic stain. That is because I don't need any more work in my life. What happens with solid acrylic stain is you actually will minimize maintenance versus paint. In about 5-10 years, depending on your environment, depending on the quality of the brand you use, you're probably gonna have to go in and scrape the dead paint off and repaint it. Now, with a solid acrylic stain, you will not have to do that. One of the negative sides to using a solid acrylic stain, which I'm gonna show you right here, which we didn't do on this coupe, and it's actually on purpose because I wanted to be able to show you guys what happens if you don't do it. And that is right here, we have tannins eventually leaching through the stain, and that's because the stain is penetrating into the wood. And again, that's what's gonna minimize the need for maintenance, all right? Versus paint, if you were to paint this, it will cover up those tannins, and those tannins won't bleed through. However, again, that paint eventually could start chipping off, and you're gonna have to go there, scrape it off, and paint it. You can actually also see it right here. And you're at the mercy of the lumber. Every piece of wood is going to be a little bit different. And this one here is a real bad case of the tannins coming through. This coop's been out here maybe 4 or 5 months, and we only have a couple coats of stain on it, and eventually it's coming through. Now the way to stop this is when we actually do a solid acrylic stain for our customers, we know there's a potential for this to happen, especially when it gets really, really warm. We'll just do a spot prime with a shellac, and what that does, that blocks that the tannins coming through from the knot, and then when you stain it, it won't come through, all right? Now, let's talk about paint. So if we come over here, so now this coupe right here, we painted, and it's a two-tone, and you'll notice there's just no tannins coming through because it's a paint, but I know for a fact, probably in about 3-4 years, maybe 5 years, there's a good chance paint will start chipping. And if we want it to look really nice and pretty, we're gonna have to go through this coupe, scrape it off, and just maybe do some spot painting or repaint the whole thing. But the point I wanted to show you guys is right now, if you take a look at this coupe and you see that coupe back there, they both look like they're painted. They both look like they're painted with the same color, but they're not. That is actually a solid acrylic stain, and this is a paint, and that is really the big difference between should I use paint or should I use a solid acrylic stain. Now, let's take it one step further. Now, right here on this California coupe is one of my favorite ways to finish any exterior wood project, and that is just putting an oil on it. Now, this one is made by Cabot. What you're looking at is the Australian Timber Oil Natural. And the reason why I want to emphasize that is we get asked all the time, Matt, what is that exact product? Because it is so beautiful. Yes, it is. And what it does is it really allows you to see the beautiful grain. In this case, it's all the Douglas fir lumber. This siding is actually southern yellow pine. And one of the things that you'll notice at first is when you're oiling 2 different species of wood, you might see a difference, but eventually they'll start to kind of blend into each other and you don't see a major difference. But the thing about the oil is you really can't screw it up putting it on. You can just brush it on, roll it on, you can spray it on and back brush it, back roll it, and you just can't screw it up. And wood just loves oil. It's that simple. And what happens is when the oil is getting soaked into this wood, that means when it rains or gets wet, oh, I got an idea. Hold on, watch this. So we're gonna go over to this little duck pond. Look at that. It's called the bead test or the splash test. What happens is when water gets on the wood, it's not getting soaked in by the wood because the oil has already taken up all the pores, all the cellular structure of the wood, so the water has nowhere to go. Therefore, it means this water is not going into the wood, feeding what actually destroys the wood, and that is other wood-destroying organisms. It's not actually that water rots the wood, it feeds what rots the wood, it feeds what destroys the wood. But here you can see the oil is doing its job. It's not letting the water get in. Every product eventually is gonna lose its efficacy. The Cabot product, the Australian Timber Oil, we have seen this last over 10 years without having to reapply. But if you're wondering, Matt, when do I know to reapply? You just do that. Do the splash test. If it beads and sits on the surface, the product's doing its job. You don't have to do anything more. All right, guys, thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions or comments, as always, please leave it down below. We always love hearing from you. Later.